Hi and hello. Today let us understand the difference between synchronous and asynchronous programming in JavaScript. Let us look at an imaginary restaurant that I have here to understand the difference. Here we are at the restaurant. We see different tables are occupied by different customers and servers are here. They're ready to take the orders. So tables have called out for the waiters. And these waiters have went to first 3 tables and took the orders, and they went back to the kitchen and placed the order. At this point of time, these waiters are waiting for the kitchen order to arrive so that they can bring the food to the tables that they took the order from. Now, at this juncture, the 3 tables are waiting for that recipe or food, and other 2 tables haven't even placed the order. So this is not an efficient way of serving the customers. So what is the best way of serving the customers? So instead of the waiters waiting here for the food to prepared and to be handed over, the waiter can simply say to the kitchen that, hey, can you call me back when my order is ready so that I can pick the order and serve it to the table. Once that instruction is passed on to the kitchen, he can go on and attend the next table and take the order and come back to the kitchen to place the new order to the kitchen. And the same can go with the next waiter too. So he can also go to the next table and take the order and come back because he has already given the instruction to the kitchen to call when the food is ready. Now, if the kitchen is called back for the table number 1 or 2 or 3, these 3 people can go to those tables with food and they serve. By the time they serve the food onto the tables, the 3 and 4 tables might have got their food prepared too. Now, these 2 customers are waiting and these 2 servers can pick up the food and serve the food to those tables. In the first scenario, where waiters and customers both are waiting for the first set of food to be prepared, is called synchronous. So they happen one after the other. Synchronous operations after one after the other. So the waiters were waiting for the 3 tables food to arrive and serve and then go back to attending the 3 and 4 tables. Those are here. In the second scenario, they were not waiting for the food, rather told the kitchen to give back a call back or just call them when the food is ready so that they can attend to the rest of the 2 tables that were waiting here. Now let us understand what is synchronous or asynchronous programming. I have 3 functions, okay? They are doing 3 different operations, and just because I declared a function, that doesn't mean that I have called the function. Remember, declaring a function is the first step, but you need to call that function whenever you need it, okay? So I'm calling now F1, after that F2, after that F2 and F3. Okay, I may not be able to see anything on the console because I haven't logged anything. To understand how the flow is executing, let me log something out of this methods. Okay, console dot log from 1 and then 2 and 3. Okay, 1 2 3, the sequential order. It is going inside that function. Okay, it is going inside that function, okay, and doing that operation, and once the operation is done, it is moving on to the second one. That's why you see that sequence, logging sequence. Okay, if I call the third one first, 3 1 2, so it is following a sequence that you have created. Okay, so how can you say JavaScript is asynchronous? Okay, you can make your program asynchronous. Okay, let me do that. Let me give you a try. Okay, on the second, now I'm getting 1 2 3, that is a sequential order. Okay, I'm saying set time out. Okay, Set timeout a method. Okay, set timeout is a method that will trigger with a delay. Okay, if you need something to happen with a delay of few seconds of second, because if I click the button, I need the user to wait for, like, you might see, if you are using Gmail, you might see sometimes you might see that, retrying in 3 to 1 seconds, like if there is an internet disconnect, if you're using Gmail and internet got disconnected, Gmail tries to, you know do retry for the internet in a interval level. I have seen it. If you have not seen it, not a problem. Set timeout is a method. Set timeout is a method that will execute another function after a certain period of time. Just a second, I'm just trying to, I've opened a window and this window is kind of making a lot of noise. Just a second. Okay, so set timeout is a method that will call a function with a delay. So again, I'm creating a arrow function. Inside that function, I'm creating another function, and I'm setting a delay of 1 second. So 1000 nanoseconds, okay, is 1 second in JavaScript. You can measure the time in nanoseconds in JavaScript. So I'm saying set a timeout for 1 second, that is 1000 nanoseconds, and call this method. So what do you want me to call? This is what you want to call it. And you keep that operation that you wanted to perform. You wanted to log from 2. Now, if you go back, see, there's a delay. So let me put a 3 seconds delay. 1 and 3 got logged, but 2 is logged after 2 seconds. But was it waiting? Because the set timeout is in F2. Okay, I called F2 here. Was it waiting until the set timeout completing? No, it was not waiting. It was went on to execute 3. That is the reason you see 1, 3 first and 2 later. Is it clear?
Yes, yes.
I put a set timeout in. I put a set timeout in F2. F1, I called F2. There is a set timeout. I really don't want to wait for 3 seconds here. So that's the behavior of asynchronous. It is not waiting for this to complete, but it is moving on to third. But once the 3 seconds is complete, JavaScript is going back to this method and executing it. So this is a callback. This is the callback method, calling back, like after 3 seconds. This is the thing that I want you to do. So I'm doing it. JavaScript is doing that. That is asynchronous programming. So here, these orders are pretty ready, like instantaneously ready. So I put them. They asked for ice cream. Ice cream is right in the fridge, and I've given 1 and 3 the ice cream. But 2 has asked for maybe a burrito. Burrito is not actually made already, or a pizza. It needs to be cooked and baked and everything. And then I'm coming back. So I can come back and deliver the third word. That is asynchronous. JavaScript doesn't wait for something to complete, and it moves on. Okay. So if you ordered a burrito or a pizza, what happens? There could be 2 cases. Either the pizza will be delivered or the pizza will not be delivered. Okay, 2 things can happen. Here I'm talking about a straightforward one scenario where you will have the answer. So it's not always that case, right? You will have to face. There can be many ways. Okay, one thing is that your pizza will be ready and you will be delivered. Second thing, there can be a fire accident to the entire hotel, and you would walk out of that restaurant without having pizza. That can also happen. That is an error in JavaScript. That is equivalent to error in JavaScript. Something else could go wrong in that context, and there is an error in file, and entire JavaScript doesn't run, right? You have seen those cases. Even if you have one error, your entire JavaScript blocks, because I'll explain you in a while why that happens, why that behavior exists uh, in JavaScript. Just give me just 5 minutes. But this is what it happens. Your pizza can be delivered, your hotel can go, anything can go wrong with your restaurant, and then your pizza will be burnt, and our ingredients are not available, your pizza cannot be delivered. The three cases. Okay, so for any operation or any method that you do, you have to face the fact that there can be these scenarios. Okay, all these scenarios, you have to be prepared for that. So how do I if there is a function, I can put a if condition. Okay, if this input comes, if there is no error with this, and then you do that. Okay, I can do an if condition inside a function and make sure that is no error, and I can make sure that no ingredient is missing. I can make sure that pizza is prepared. That's good. But what if you are dependent on an external system? Okay, not your code. Okay, someone else's code, like a backend developer an endpoint. Okay, where you can send data and he saves it. That is not in your control. Okay, someone else is writing some piece of code, and you cannot always rely on that code. So yeah, now you see that scope of you know it's going to creep you out. If you see, if the input is not properly, you don't know how that guy designed this system. If you are sending it, there's a chance that your input or his input, your output or his input is not a match, and you see an error. So a lot of things go wrong. So to handle that behavior, there is a solution exists in JavaScript called promise. Okay, so what can a promise do? It's a contract between two entities. Okay, it's a contract between consumer and consumee. I don't know if that is a word, but you get the one who promises have to deliver. Okay, he has a two choices. He can deliver or not to deliver. He can choose to do that. He can choose to resolve that request or resolve that promise, or he can choose to reject that promise. Okay, with kids, if you reject, what happens. But that's not the case. So JavaScript does have an API called promise, and you always have you can create a promise, and you can perform an operation. And if the operation is successful, you can resolve that promise. And if that is not successful, you can reject that promise. So how do I do that? Okay, and especially, why do I need that? Okay, let me say you a case. Okay, you have created an app to save a to do. Okay, I created and saved it. Now this time you're saving it on database. Okay, the database, there is a chance that database could go down, like crash out. The database is crashed out and it is not available at that point of time. If you're trying to save multiple times, it doesn't resolve the issue around database. But you have to say that database is not available to the user. Okay, there can be so you're depending on the external system. Now after some time only you will be able to know, because you have to make a request to the database, and that database should be available, should store it, should return you, give you a response that it is stored, and you take that response back to your code and show it to the user. So it's a delay, it's uncertain, it's late, it's uncertain, but you cannot stop the user doing some other operation, or you cannot block your code until that operation finished, because that is asynchronous programming. Sorry, that is synchronous programming. And what could go wrong with synchronous programming? Your website will be too slow to perform. Okay, in the world of web, these waiters are called threads. Okay, threads. What is a thread? A thread is a series of instruction to perform. So multi-threaded programming languages are Java, PHP. Okay, I'm not referring to JavaScript. Java, PHP, C, all these guys are multi-threaded programming language. For each request to a website, they will create a thread. Okay, each thread will consume some space out of the computation capacity of that particular machine. So if you are using a 4 GB RAM and 2 gigahertz processor, each thread will consume some capacity of that particular machine and perform that operation and completes it and move on to next uh, you know next operation. But JavaScript is a single threaded programming language. Okay, single threaded programming. There is only one thread exists in JavaScript. In Java or PHP, these guys have lots of threads. There is no limit to to their capacity of creating threads. But yet JavaScript has only one thread to perform the operation. There is only one guy doing all these things. There is only one waiter in the restaurant, but this one waiter doing a pretty efficient job. And trust me, JavaScript, when it comes to IO operations, input and output operations, that I give you an input and give me back the input, that kind of operations, JavaScript is better, 360 times better than Java. Java, how it has a history. It is actually being used in 360 billion devices today. At this point of time, Java is being in 360 billion types of devices. Okay, but still JavaScript beats in IO operation. When it comes to IO operations like that, I give you an input, give me an output. To handle that input output operation, Java will be lose to JavaScript 360 times. So that is the reason, that is the only reason you see this flare up or this love towards JavaScript, this many node framework, this much talent is needed on JavaScript. If you ask what is the best, if someone asks you what is the best thing about JavaScript, JavaScript is a single threaded programming language, but it is an asynchronous programming language too. At the same time, this one single thread doesn't wait for anybody to block them. It doesn't get blocked by anybody or any operation. It will simply read through that code, execute that code, goes on to the next request, and it will create a callback for each of these input. Whenever there is a callback, it will go and do that operation programmed in the callback. So it doesn't wait for anybody, any operation or anything, unless you intentionally block the code. So you never want to block the code. So that's the gist of asynchronous programming, and that is the advantage of asynchronous programming. And let's see asynchronous programming. Okay, now let me create a promise. And you have saw that asynchronous programming in a small scale, but that's not the exact way to look at it. So let me give you that scenario. Okay, where sorry, I started my career on creating variables, so a lot of times I choose to type where. So let get flowers, okay, is the promise. New promise. Okay, this is how you can create a promise. You know how to create a string. New string, new number, new boolean, new array, new object. Same way, new promise. Okay, what is that input to that promise? You can see it here. You can understand that input. Okay, the syntax, the input that you need to send it to the promise. Looking at here, an executor, that means a function. Executor is a function. Executor function. A callback used to initialize a promise. So ignore about all this. I'll tell you what it is. Okay, you need to send a function to it. The first parameter will be resolve function. The second parameter is the reject function. Okay, you can send resolve and reject. Okay, sorry, just a second, someone is calling me. Okay, I'm back. I just want to take a pause. Is this so far any confusion or anything that you want me to go over? Okay, remember, I want you to remember this one statement in the today's session. JavaScript is asynchronous programming language. It is non-blocking. It is non-blocking by behavior because it will not wait for anything, because it's an asynchronous programming language. When it comes to IO operations, like simply giving an input and getting an output, okay, in JavaScript is simply better than any other programming language in the world that exists. Okay, there are some things being cooked, but they'll not be that matured as JavaScript in given span of time. There's the JavaScript has a 10-year of head start in this uh, you know in this behavior. So there can be other programming languages that do same kind of operation, but JavaScript has a head start, lot of ecosystem build around it. So this is how you create a promise. For that promise, what you need to do, you need to pass in a function. Okay, that is executor. This executor function is will request you to resolve and reject are the two parameters that it will expect. And okay, and if there is an operation to compare something, okay, get flowers, okay, where shop is open is equals to false. Okay, shop is not open, flower stock. So this is see guys, I'm just preparing this input here in this file itself, but usually these methods will be present on a different application itself. Okay, different application, because if there is an application, like I'm creating an application to talk to a flower store or a bouquet store and getting back that input, getting back that flowers for her, then this will be somewhere else, right? So for now I'm keeping it here. Okay, so now I need to go to that uh, you know go to that flower shop or bouquet shop, and it will take me some time. What time it will take? It will take me uh 5 seconds. It will take me 5 seconds to go there. Okay, I'm just talking as if I'm telling you a story. I'm telling you a story. Okay, look at the code along with my story, so don't ignore any of it. Look at the code and understand my story. I need 5 seconds of time to go there. Okay, okay, I need this update. Okay, whether you can give me that file, you can give me the flowers or not, as soon as you are at the store, not while coming back. Okay, I can guide you to do something else. Okay, okay, you understood, right? So after 5 seconds, I reach that store and I am checking if the store is open, is equals to true, or I can simply put it like this, and this will also expect the statement to be true. And flower stock should also be good. Then you need to resolve that request. Then only you need to resolve that request. If anything out of these two things are not true, that means if the shop is open, the flowers are not in stock, you cannot promise that you cannot complete that request. So you need to, so either of it is false, the shop is closed or the stock is not there, you need to reject it. Okay, so this is my operation, get flowers. Now there are two methods to this. Now this is a promise. Okay, the promise can return two things, then and catch. Okay, the then method will again have first parameter is a resolve. Resolve means, okay, this is, so this is going to be this, and this is going to be, okay. So I created a promise and I am expecting two callbacks. Okay, this is a callback. Remember, kitchen should call you when it is ready or not. Okay, I'm sending, this method will be called if the request is resolved. If that is true, this method will be called if the request is not able to resolve. So that is this. You know just like sending another parameter for function. So don't get confused, don't make things complex. So this is that. Okay, now success, I'll get flowers. I am getting flowers. Honey, it's not my fault. Okay, it's not truly, it's not his fault. Okay, the program is written, because either the shop is closed or the flower is not in stock. Let us go and see this promise. What is happening? Honey, it's not. Sorry. I don't even know how to say sorry. It's hard for me to say my fault. Okay. 5 seconds. Wait for 5 seconds. You were at the store. It says it's not my fault. So was it waiting? Let me put a console log here. See, it's not waiting for this to request or resolve here. Okay. It has assigned certain callbacks to that promise and said, yeah, you just carry on. I've assigned these two things. These guys will let me know, when it is request resolved or rejected, but I'm still going to cook it. So my JavaScript is cooking. Now it's cooking. It continues to cook. It doesn't stop. It's actually, but after 5 seconds, I'm also getting that information. Honey, it's not my fault. Well, let me open the store. True. True. Hey, after this one, you guys need to go to the bathroom. Now, the statement is true. Okay, because these two are true here. Now I'm calling the resolve method thing. So two key takeaways. One, JavaScript is asynchronous programming. It doesn't wait for any code to complete because it moves on to the next set of code. The second thing is promises is an absolute handy tool, because something you don't know, something occurs in the future, like some result occurs in the future, but you don't want to JavaScript to wait until that request. You can write a promise and you can call that function, and then you can write two possibilities, functions for all possibilities, that if it's success, what should be done? If it is a failure, what should be done? What should we do? So those two things, you can program it and move on to the next things. You don't have to worry. So those two are the key takeaways from the session.